Welcome to Refuel with Jennifer Ballou. Join Jennifer for the next hour for a time to recharge, refresh, and refuel your heart and soul. Here's your host, Jennifer Ballou.
Hey everyone, welcome to Refuel. I'm so happy to have you here with me. I hope you have spent the last 7 days stepping into this thing of really practicing gratitude. I am so excited about this journey and really practicing that. I have several other things I'm really stepping into and practicing and creating habits with. And this is one I know that God is saying, hey, let's really look at this and really step into it. And I'm excited to do it. And I hope you're joining me in that journey. I would love to hear about it. I would love to know if you're doing that. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can comment below. If you are listening on the website, please, send me an email. You can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. All the things. I would just love to know if you're really stepping into this and if you can tell a difference already in your perspective and your view of things. So what I really want to talk about today, though, and I think that's what I intended to talk about last week and didn't, but, gratefulness really, it changes everything. And one of the reasons I started really looking at this, like I told you, was the book, The Body Keeps Score. And it's really about trauma. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And this probably will be a pretty short podcast today, so enjoy that. And I think it's a good thing to kind of look at, because I would say that 100% of us have experienced trauma in our life, and we've never labeled it as that. It's not something that the church really was good at looking at or acknowledging even, unless it was something horrific, And I would say it, as hard as this is to say, there's a lot of the times that people will go through things that was very traumatic to them. But to you, it doesn't seem very traumatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got to get in a place where we allow people their trauma. That we recognize that, that may not have affected us that way if we'd had to walk through it, but it did them. And this is here's some really simple ways of looking at trauma. They are wounds left inside our hearts that keep us from living in wholeness. They barricade us from growth. They slow down our maturity, and they keep the broken fragments of our hearts from healing. Trauma is any place in your heart where your pain stays greater than your joy. So when we are thinking about in our own lives, when we say that, when it's the pain stays greater than our joy, that doesn't mean in all areas of our life that we aren't joyful. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a lot of joy, but when something brings you back to that place of that trauma, it's like that joy is just sucked out of there, and it's all is the pain of that place. And we have to visit those places. We have to go back to those places because God wants us living in wholeness. He wants us to enjoy life, to live it fully. And it's an important process for us to go through this. There's a book, and I didn't write the name of the book down, but if you're curious, ask me on something and I will let you know. I'm so bad at this sometimes. But it's really talking about joy and how we need to retain joy. But there's always going to be things that try to steal our joy. We're going to go through difficult things that are hurtful. We're going to have more instances where there is trauma in our life. But what we need to learn to do is to return to joy quickly. That we need to be able to not stay in that place of hurt. We need to understand how we get in this place of renewing our mind. And one of those things is really this daily practice of gratitude. And like I said last week, that's where we develop these neural pathways. So if we've already developed those, if we're already creating those pathways in a place where, we're maybe not in a season of trauma, which I feel like we have all been in a season of trauma the last couple of years. But, anyway, if we've created those pathways and something happens, it's okay to be in the midst of that trauma, because it happened. But when we've already developed that daily habit, we can find our way back into those pathways quickly. That means a healing comes in a different way. And I don't want to say faster, but the wholeness that we can walk in comes much quicker in a much easier way when we've already developed the skills to cultivate, that we've cultivated that thankfulness, that we've developed the skills to really find the good and to focus on the good, that we can put our kingdom glasses on and we choose to have eyes that taste and see that the Lord is good no matter where we're standing and no matter what we're in the midst of standing in. If you look at the scriptures where Peter and Andrew are out fishing, when Jesus comes to them and asks them to, follow him, the type of net that Peter and Andrew were using is a particular type of net, and it was really could only be used successfully during the day because it was used when you saw movement below the surface. And that's the kind of net we need to be carrying at all times. That we see this movement below the surface, that we can cast those nets and catch those good things and pull them in. Because in those good times, we can catch a lot of fish. We can really, and the more you catch, the more you see. Like you might have just below the surface saw a couple of fish. You cast out your net and it is overflowing and full. And we keep those with us so that when something difficult hits, when trauma happens, that we can sit back and we can really look at all the things that we have, that we've stored up, that we can be grateful for because we have practiced this skill, because we have trained our brains, because we are now looking as optimists at the world around us, that we have made this difficult choice of looking for the good, the true, and the lovely, and we've made that deliberate choice, then we can enter into the wholeness that God has for us at a much quicker pace. That we have learned to renew our mind, that we can step into those places of gratefulness, even in the midst of some of our darkest days, maybe even. I mean, I don't know what's going on with you. I'm not in a place right now while I'm recording this of some big trauma. I have walked out trauma, and it took me let's say, I think it took 7 years to walk that out. That's a long time. 7 years to really get in that place of wholeness, and then another year or two of really walking out reconciliation and different things like that, to where now, like, it's just totally gone. You know, that I really am living in a whole state from that trauma. I'm sure there is other trauma that I haven't dealt with that I probably need to go back to. And that's one of the reasons for that book I got of The Body Keeps Score. But anyway, that's going to be some slow reading. I've already told y'all that. Anyway, you know, the darkest day in all of history. So the day Jesus was crucified, like if we look at that, that was the darkest day of history. But it was the day of his brightest glory as well. And I'm not comparing Jesus's crucifixion to my own trauma, but like if I had known how to really get back to that place of joy quicker, well, even now, like even though it took a long time, that is one of the biggest platforms even that I can speak from, that shines light back to God's glory and the glorious way he works. And you know, everything we do, we want to put that spotlight back on Jesus and really showcase his grace and his mercy and his love. And gratitude really can do that for us as we learn to cultivate it and really step into it. And really take the time for those grateful moments, really catching those things, pulling them in with our nets, tucking them away, you know, for a later time. Sometimes we need to pull up the old stuff and see, you know, keeping a gratitude journal, I think, is such an amazing thing, because if we do get into this place of just a down place or trauma or whatever, we can flip back through there and remember, oh yeah, you know, just to pull back up those grateful moments and what we were really allowing God to work in our lives, and to really see those things written down. That's a whole different, you know, kind of neural pathway thing even. So I think it's really important that we learn to create those pathways, because if we don't, especially in difficult seasons and in moments of trauma, if we don't change how we're thinking, we're going to end up finding ourselves in more difficult situations. There's going to be more trauma piled on it. Because it's part of that law of attraction, and that whatever we think about consistently, how we act, our attitudes, it actually attracts certain things to us. And our negative thoughts let darkness in. Darkness sees the opportunity to grab hold of us. Our acts and thoughts and perceptions are key to what we are attracting into our lives. So let's really dive into this attitude of gratitude and cultivating it and using those nets when we see that little bit of movement of the good to really cast those nets out and catch those moments of thankfulness and gratefulness and those blessings and really taking the time to look at them. And let's not be afraid of looking at at the trauma moments in our lives, going back to those and learning how to handle it so that we can step into wholeness. We want to live the life that God has given us full, free, and whole. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you are continuing on in this grateful walk with me, and I would love to hear from you. Like I said earlier, I would write that down in my gratefulness journal that I heard from a listener and how they were using this. So anyway, until next week, guys, see you later. Bye.